for me. Run through the land, you run through my soul. Bring me wisdom and peace. Run through all ages and all of life's stages. You bring me around to find my release.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest today. We have William Butler with us, and he is the author of the Brian Masters story, Roads to Addiction, Highways to Recovery. And I'm going to hold this up for you so you can see it. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
Bill
for having
came
me.
in here all dapper dressed with his tie on and everything. That's great. It's fun to see a guest that's really, really dresses. I remember seeing my dad coming home every night. Oh, he had suit, the bag, the tie. Oh, he looked great. And you say now you're from Syracuse.
I grew up in Syracuse, actually Fayetteville, New York, right outside.
So so what brought you out here?
Money.
I love his stuff. Okay.
My friends moved from Syracuse to Taunton and all over. Got into the high tech in the 80s, wore the red ties and so on, and they were making more money, so I came out here and
You went to Syracuse, you?
Oh yeah.
What did you major? Oh, you probably majored in the math part, right?
Marketing, finance, and transport management.
Did you find that really helped you in what you've been doing?
No.
No. I went to college and I didn't even use a lot of what I learned either.
Well, at least we're talking the same language.
Oh yeah.
What ended up happening is that the statistics that I took for when I got into software analytics and predictive modeling, that's when it came into play, and you had everything else. The training, it's companies like Xerox and IBM are what really set the foundation for the people I know.
Now, you, how did you tell us about the idea for your Roads to Addiction, Highways to Recovery. It's about a man named Brian Masters, which is a pseudonym, right?
It's a pseudonym.
Okay.
I use a pseudonym for various reasons, but I made $1 million and I lost $1 million, and we'll discuss why. But the time that I was in Quincy, I was at a shelter. I won't name the name of the shelter because it shouldn't be named.
Were you there as a resident or as a helper?
Resident.
Okay.
And it was a hellhole. But I was walking through the nor'easter. It was 2015 when we had 3 nor'easters in a row. Mm-hmm. And I was walking through around Quincy because you can't be at the shelters during the day. And I was going over a snowbank with sneakers and spring clothes and looking what I used to have and what now where I am.
Yep.
And I mentioned it to myself, people have to know about this.
Yep.
They have to know whether it's outside forces or inside forces can throw you into a world that you don't ever want to be in. And so I got the idea, and when I started moving up, I got a grant from the government, got a laptop, started on a laptop, took about 1.5 years, got an editor friend, and we started putting the book together.
And you do have a friend that this is about, but we're keeping it anonymous with the name Brian Masters, right?
Brian Masters is me.
I wondered. I love your honesty.
Is it me or is it
There you go. So you went from, this could happen to anybody. That's how scary it is.
Yep.
You had your money, right? For whatever reason, it's gone. You ended up in the shelter. By then, had you had your family? Did you have a wife and your son?
I had a wife and my son.
Did they know where you were?
Let me put it this way. The book starts out with their paths that people go down, but there are events that push them that way. They might be out of their control. The choices they make when they're pushed is a different story. And I try to explain that in the book of where you should stop. But in my situation, it wasn't death or anything. It was divorce, which normally takes people out. Yeah. It was trauma because somebody that I knew tried to talk somebody into killing me, and in Westboro. Then there was a financial collapse, 2008, And then there was abandonment, because when you don't have money or you're starting to lose money, all your friends go away.
Family too?
My son was estranged from me for a while, but then in like his early 20s, he realized what reality was.
Sure.
It was, but I'm not going to talk about the divorce side. It was, but the divorce can make people abandon you. Yeah. My friends were my son for a while, and then business friends. Yeah. Because again, you don't have the money. Yeah. The last event could be medical, and in my situation, or Brian Masters' situation, because I am Brian Masters too, by the way. He went to a hospital, had spine operation went bad. It ended up in 3 more operations, 2 induced comas, 3 blood transfusions, and he came back alive.
A walking miracle.
Exactly. But was he the same guy? It took about a year to a year and a half to really become more cognizant. Yeah. I mean, when Brian woke up and started functioning, he got TV, he saw drones. So in that timeline, he didn't know he knew what a drone was, but he didn't know drones were popular and you could buy over the counter anymore. Yeah. That's how much he missed. He used to connect databases together in business and make money. Yeah. Now they had the cloud. He missed that. So medical things could happen, at which point, if that does happen, then trying to get another job at the same level is almost impossible. That leads to the path. Now, during those events, especially the trauma, which is post-traumatic syndrome or situational anxiety, you shake, so you might drink to keep the shakes down. Sure. That happened to me. Now, I didn't have a problem with alcohol at that time. But as it started to slide and I actually became homeless, the first day I was homeless, I was on the Grafton Library steps, actually.
Are you serious?
Yeah, calling people, asking them if I could stay over their house, people who used to call me.
They're rebuilding the Grafton Library. Right?
I like Upton.
What were you doing? What were you doing in Grafton?
I was actually using the library to get jobs.
But you said it ended up at Quincy, or is that...
When you hit the shelters, you hit the street, and if nobody will put you up, you have to go to the shelters. And that's what I like about what we're doing with the governor right now. But the shelters or homeless rooms are the only place you can go, especially when the winter's coming on. Thus, you will be bused, or you travel, a friend will put you up and then travel to Quincy, which happened to me.
That's a long, we used to live in Hingham, so I remember looking across the water at the shipyard.
Yeah, it would be great, except there was nor'easters coming in, and the people were out there with summer clothes on and couldn't get back into the shelter because that was the rule.
You couldn't, not during the day, they kick you out, right?
They kick you out.
How long were you there?
Only probably about 2.5 weeks.
Long enough.
The path is where you don't want to go. In the book, it's all true. Everything from the beginning to the end. And it has backed up by police records, medical records, everything of what this gentleman went through, Brian. In the path, you become part of what they call the subculture. We have our culture here. Mm-hmm. The subculture is survival. You're on the street, you move from place to place, you learn how to survive, you learn how to get what you need. And the young ones are really good at it, to the old ones. Yeah. And sometimes I never stole anything, but you try to get what you can. Oh, yeah. Other people will try to do you in to get what they want. Yeah. Even in Massachusetts. It's all in Massachusetts, and all the shelters are in Massachusetts. And the health system that helped me get out of the issue is in Massachusetts. So when you see that Brian was pistol whipped in Worcester and how he got out of that, then you know exactly, if you're in Worcester, you'll know exactly where it is, and not the people who did it.
Is a PIP shelter, did they do away with the PIP shelter?
I do not know yet. I blocked my mind out.
I don't even know where they are anymore. Are they anymore?
I don't know, but that was, if we're talking about the same thing, they closed the doors
South Main Street.
There's 50 beds, and anything can go on and back to the doors when turn off the lights.
Bill, are you a veteran? Because they got veterans on Grove Street where they help the vets.
No.
No.
All my family were veterans all the way to the Civil War, but mine was the Vietnam War, and it was ending, and friends were coming back, and they weren't the same, so I didn't want to go.
They were. We are talking with Bill Butler, and Bill is the author of Roads to Addiction, Highways to Recovery, the Brian Masters story. This is a true story, and Brian Masters is the gentleman right beside me, and I love his honesty. How long did it take you to get I guess the word is clean and sober? Was that long?
I was really only in trouble for about a year and a half to 2 years.
That's a short run for alcohol.
It is a short run.
Yeah.
You still have to be careful of it now, but it really became down and dirty when you're right before you become homeless, because the key to this, and in part, if you would hold up the book again,
Sure.
the key behind the cover, which is very important, which was actually the person walking was done by an illustrator out of Disney, and the word in back of the homeless person, could be a woman or a man, is hope. Once hope is gone, then you're vulnerable to anything, addiction, alcohol, being abused on the street, anything like that. But in the cloud in back of the hope is all the different words that would pertain to a life or a drug problem of any sort. So the reader can identify and go, yes, I understand that. But there's also words of hope, because without hope you're not going to make it. So as I went through the subculture, I learned, and I was able to see what reality was, because at the end of the book, it's a way to get out of the addiction, alcohol, for an addiction, depends on who's saying what, and maybe the steps that were provided to you. I created 11 action plans by myself, and they all worked to get me out, and also a number of my friends. I also volunteer at a place called the Recovery Connection in Marlboro, which is a great place for
Is
people.
that the, what's that called? It's on the main street?
Yep.
Well,
there's a YARC, which is...
The YARC.
That's AA.
I had a friend who went there.
Recovery Connection is for all different people. There might not people be there that have alcohol or drug problems.
Okay.
There could be women that had battered issue problems.
Okay.
There could be trauma, or a couple of my friends were bipolar and they went there. It's a peer scenario where people talk, understand, know they're not alone, and then figure out how to get out of it. And there's functions that people can go on. The director that is there now, he's done a fantastic job. And Spectrum helps, from the whole
Yeah,
thing.
Spectrum, I know there's one on Lincoln Street in Worcester, and then there's one out in Westboro.
Yep.
The campus in Westboro is beautiful, I thought.
Yes.
I was out of curiosity. A friend of mine had her daughter there. I'm like, this sounds great. So I'm driving by. It looks like a little college or private school.
I met the CEO, Kurt, and that gentleman is down to earth and has the right plan for what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But again, in the third part, when you're trying to get out, one of the actions plans that you have to do is look for the resources that are going to get you out of there. So in my case, I joined St. Vincent de Paul in Marlboro. So not to get religious and spiritual, but something to do, and maybe try to give back a little bit.
So you volunteered for a while.
I volunteered for that and a number of other things. But the real thing is not touching anything for 90 days.
Yeah.
Yale University's, AA says that too, but Yale University proved it. And for 90 days, if you abstain, and you can abstain from anything, the connection to the frontal lobe and the rear lobe, which is the primal area of the brain where you want to party, they connect. So the logic of the frontal lobe, now the person is more what they were before. They have to be careful.
I think in AA they say 90 meetings in 90 days.
Actually in the Yale write-up, they say, this is what they say. They say AA stumbled upon it. They had the right idea.
Well,
AA also says don't have any sexual relations or have a
Give
relationship
yourself a year before you get mixed up.
with the
That's what I've been
opposite
told.
sex. And
They said.
guess what? That's correct. I didn't follow that for a while,
Yeah.
and that was a bit of the wrong move.
How long ago now did you finally get it together? It began to get your recovery both mentally, emotionally, and with the alcohol.
2015.
Okay, so that's great. That's about 5 years.
The operation was in 11. I had to sell my house and assets
God.
in 12 and 13. People were really gone. And then I became homeless, and that's when my first day was under depression, as I said. But the interesting thing about that is that when I call people,
Yeah.
I called one woman, and I'd helped her through cancer and a few other things. And she said, well, I don't think my family would really like you coming over and staying. So you look there and you go,
Stigma.
stigma.
That's one thing that I noticed that you wrote. You wrote one of, I think it was the back of the book. There's this stigma that people have. It's crazy.
It's very bad. It's actually worse than the gentlemen that come back from the war.
Yeah.
And I've met a number of them, and I was much like them.
Mm-hmm.
But they're stigmatized. People think, oh, well, you've got to black off at any minute. Or you had an addiction, hands off. I was trying to crush the stigma in the book. I could have done a better job of it. But my intention was to have people understand that during that path down, they have a choice to turn around or get help or therapy. Unfortunately, I didn't know because I'd never experienced it before. But when you're getting out, you need multiple paths, not just AA. AA is just a tool and a theology to get you out of the problem. You have to get away from the people that are surrounding you. You should really go to an institution for 90 days. Like Spectrum does have 60 days. I don't know if they have 90
Well,
days.
didn't they used to, back in the 80s, they kept you longer. Nowadays, they call it,
That's the problem.
to drying out, send them out they go.
That's the problem. Whether you're in Worcester, whether you're in Marlborough, or whether you're in Canton,
Yeah.
the stay is about 3 days just to
Yeah.
get you back to somewhat normal, and then you're out again. That does nothing.
No.
You-
Well, they call it spin dry, I've heard. It's
I
spin
haven't
dry.
heard the term, but I believe
Spin
it.
dry and out they go.
It's sad too because that's kind of derogatory.
Yeah, I've heard people who are in recovery, tell me it's called spin dry.
Well, that's why some people aren't used to subculture, though it's a word that we use,
Yeah.
or I did use, because I'm out of the subculture, I hope.
Bill, before we go any further, how could people get a hold of your book?
The book is sold on Amazon, and you just type in Brian Master Story or Road to Addiction, Highway to Recovery, and it should pop up. I'll do a plug here. I am looking for an agent and a publisher.
I mean, publicist.
Publicist.
I love his honesty.
So
How long have we been communicating? When did I read about you first? Where was it?
I don't know. You called me.
I contact you by email because I newspapers. I find so many wonderful stories. People will email me. You're watched all over the lot. We've got one in Japan watching this. Once you're on that YouTube, gone. You're everywhere.
Well, I can give some credibility to the book when we move forward. Okay,
Sure. Yeah.
is that just within a week, one of the top individuals in recovery in the world, actually, Dr. David Best out of London, has endorsed the book.
Oh, I see it right here. Those approved and endorsed by some top scholars. Yep, and researchers.
William White
Yeah.
is the guru of recovery and stigma. He's just, I can't count it, like 400 books. And
Ironic
he's
that it's
speaker.
Bill, because Bill and
Yeah, we call each other.
Dr. Bob and Bill.
He
and
still
me.
calls me Brian. They all
Yeah.
call me Brian. But they've endorsed the book
Yeah.
to the point where it's going to actually be in the Hall of Fame of Chestnut
Awesome.
Hill for it.
Awesome.
It has reality and it's real, and it has some function to it. You can get out of your problem with it.
All right, so you got out. You found a place to go after the shelter, but how on earth did you get back into the working scheme? How did you do that? Tell them about that.
Well, that's where the steps come into play. I used a whiteboard so I could see it all the time. You can use a calendar. You can use anything.
It's 9 steps you're talking about. There's 12 in the AA program.
There's 11 steps in
11
my
steps,
action
okay.
plan.
Yeah.
Now, my action plan correlates by chance with William White's capital assessment. So what you need to do is use the resources around you. So if you're in a shelter or you've been fortunate enough to get a grant and be in one of the houses, maybe the Spectrum or SMOC gives you, the SMOC organization, which is very good. You have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So what you do is you try to get your license back if possible so you can get transportation.
Did you still have your car?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But how did you pay
I lost my car, sure.
So you had to get your license back.
I got to get my license
You got to
back.
get your car insurance.
Yeah.
You got to get a car.
Yeah.
How did you do this?
That's another thing that's needed to be done. There's 2 things that have to be done. If you still have money, I'm breaking the 11 up right now, but if you still have money, you don't keep it. You give it to somebody else you trust.
Okay. Yeah.
At which point you budget what you can have out of that.
Okay.
Or it's important to have still some decent supporters, maybe family members, I'm not sure, whatever you can get,
Yeah.
that might be able to give you some cash or assets, but they don't give it to you to give it to where you want it to go.
Yeah.
Or they give it to you so you can just survive a little bit.
Yeah.
You also get SNAP, so you have
Yep,
food
the
stamps, and
yeah.
anything else you can get.
You heard the
unemployment.
latest about that.
What's that?
The administration is, I think in April, sad news, they're going to wipe out millions of people on it. Good people who need the food stamps, they're doing their job maybe, or they can't work.
I still work for, I volunteer for St. Vincent de Paul in Marlborough, and it's a great organization. We've helped numerous families in Marlborough, and Hudson has the same, and so, anyways, most of the people who call us are on food stamps.
Yeah.
So if that is wiped out,
Are they working? Are they able to work?
they're trying. Some of them are.
They're going to be. They better. I warned a friend of mine.
You're going to have a percentage that aren't going to try at all because they're trying to use the system.
Yeah.
That's also.
Yeah, but I don't hate that thing. Remember in school, you punish one because one did the wrong thing. I'm against that. You don't punish everybody.
No,
You
and
don't.
it's sad to hear because
Yes, it is. Really.
I should have. I don't think anybody's realizing it yet.
They
because I'm
will.
working with people. And
Unless somebody can stop it. I've got a friend who says it'll be, filibustered. They'll try to stop that.
good.
God. We're talking with Bill.
That's why we should vote for Governor Baker because
Yeah.
he's the only governor I've ever heard of that actually is looking at the homeless.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
I'm neither Republican or Democrat.
I'm not either.
But he is addressing that. But back to the 11 steps, you have somebody else funnel the money to you so that you're not in control. You get your license back, and you hope that you can have enough to get your job, a local job with local buses to get you to a job.
Yep.
You can save some money, in which point you get a car back.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody gives you a car, depending on what the situation might be. Thus, you have transportation. Once you have transportation, the whole world kind of opens up. But you have to do the 90 days. You have to separate, whether it's from a new town or what, the people that you hung around with.
Right.
Because they'll just bring it right back down. You need 90 days, whether it's simultaneous with the other 90, to get in some type of institution. Then you have using the resources around you, because there are a lot of resources around you. Whether it's the churches for food so you can eat, or whether it's St. Vincent de Paul or SMOC or something
Salvation Army.
Salvation Army is great. So once you use those resources, then maybe you can get the transportation back. Then you get a better job.
But how did you?
I mean, I worked at Macy's and J.C. Penney. Yeah, I shouldn't say selling jewelry.
But how did you?
And I was doing buses.
How did you get to the interviews, and were they good at taking you right off?
I was doing retail, so they took me right off, and I wore a suit.
Yeah.
But I was homeless.
They didn't have to know that.
They didn't know that.
Good.
And I used the bus system to get there, enough money to get a car.
Yeah.
So
Did you? Well, you said you mentioned you're in sales. You like that?
I love it.
You love sales. I grew up with a family of salesmen. I know it's like, oh my God.
Well, that comes with a checklist that I designed.
Yeah, yeah.
William White's assessment is far more detailed, but it starts with, it actually creates values to what you're doing
Yeah.
and what things you're doing to improve yours. 35 questions or statements. At which point, 6 months later, after you did the first one, it goes from maybe 85, top is 175. You all of a sudden you go to 90, or you go to 10, 100.
Yeah.
It's the positive reinforcement. You actually see yourself improving, which is exactly what I did with the 11 steps.
Yeah.
And when I sent an email to Bill White, because, by the way, Spectrum uses Bill White's
Oh,
methodology
okay.
in Westboro,
Yeah.
and so does everybody else around the world. But the key part is positive reinforcement and seeing that you can move up in the scale.
Yeah.
You might want to go to some place like the Recovery Connection or Spectrum itself to understand how to use it.
We'll be talking again with Bill Butler, and he wrote this great book, Roads to Addiction, Highways to Recovery, the Brian Masters story. And as he has shared with us, he is Brian Masters. And what a way to go from being on the top, and then, can happen to anybody, homeless.
Exactly. It's crushing.
Did you have to have a counselor to kind of talk it out with somebody?
I didn't trust the counselors.
You didn't?
No. Unfortunately, when the government will pay for those counselors. Now, I didn't say that all of them were bad, but when my experience was they just got out of college and really didn't care.
Yeah.
It was billable hours.
Okay.
I saw the billable hours. A lot of people don't understand what billable hours are, but you bill based on how many people you see. It really didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But having said that, working with other people in groups or going to AA or socializing and being out there, not sitting by yourself is
Isolating,
crucial.
I hear, is really bad.
It is. It is.
Now, you can get his book. Want to drop down over at the Upton Library, downstairs. We have a dedicated authors section, our local authors and all. Pick up a copy of his book. And again, how can they get your book?
It'll be just go to Amazon Books, type in for a search Brian Master Story, or you can type in Roads to Addiction, Highways to Recovery. There is another Brian Masters in England.
Yeah.
He's a mystery writer.
Oh.
That's not me.
That's not him.
So,
One time I think I looked it up out of curiosity and I found that mystery writer thing. Oh,
yeah, he's probably pretty ticked right now because I'm going up in the ratings.
you know what? He might be in recovery himself and say, yes.
In all seriousness, if you want to help a friend or a family member or yourself, read the book, check it out. You can read it online if you want to. But the key is to find a way, a multiple way, in my opinion, and others' opinions, to get out of the issue. Or, in the book, the author talks to the reader.
Right.
And they said, should I have done this at this particular time? So everything is a choice. So if you're divorced and you're going to wreck on this, go to a therapist. If you have a traumatic experience, get a therapist or whatever you can do. But change the path. It's your choice.
Bill, where are you going to be appearing so people might come and visit you, see your presentation?
A presentation.
Any book signings coming up?
Yes, I'm trying to. Right, there's a lot of paperwork with Barnes and Noble.
They're not the only ones on the block.
When I did it with Tannock Books,
He was just at Tatnuck, did a great job.
they did say that it was the largest that they'd have had for a first author.
And you
which
chose
was-
to sit up front, didn't you? You chose
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Now, there's a big room in the back. I gravitate toward that, but you wanted to do
No,
that.
I didn't want to do that.
You didn't want to do that.
No.
And people kept coming to your desk there where you sat, and how did you do it?
It is interesting, and there are other people buying other people the book
Yes.
because some
yeah.
people couldn't afford the book,
Yeah.
so other people would buy it. There should be something said about the subculture. There are people that'll make your life miserable. Let's put it that way. Or there's good people that'll teach you the ropes and try to help you, or give you clothes. It's so there are people out there that are trying to help you. Hopefully, you'll help them.
Yes.
It's not a bad side to it. There is a good side. The other book signings I'm arranging now.
Good. That's very. We are going to have to wrap it up. We're going to have him back. Now, when is your new book coming out? Or are you still
My
working?
new one.
You said you got another.
That'll be 6 months.
That's good. What's it going to be called?
The first pass it has work in motion too, by the way.
Yeah.
It'll be medical professionals and patients. There are two perspectives.
Great.
In other words, the patients don't understand who a CNA is, what the surgeons want, and these people don't understand the trauma that they go through sometimes because they're so stuck in their roles. I'm using real life scenarios. I'll reel again.
Yeah.
Real life scenarios from both sides, along with my experience, because I went to 12 rehabs for the infections that were given to me in hospitals, unfortunately. I'm pretty much an expert on it.
Yeah.
So there's no book like it, and I want to try to draw it together.
So we're looking at still this year, 2020 coming up.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to have to sign off. We'll get him back again. He's got a lot of good things to say, a lot of wisdom on recovery. I love his honesty. Thank you, and
Thank you very
see
much.
you next time.